Kenny!
Absurd, weird, yet hilarious, this animated TV series has become a worldwide favorite because of its satirical comedy. We're talking about South Park, the American sitcom that has run for 2 decades and is on its 3rd. The show's love for the perfect equilibrium and the writers have established while addressing socio-political issues and philosophies without any biases or prejudices. South Park began in 1997 when the writer duo Trey Parker and Matt Stone created America's best-loved elementary school characters Kyle Broflovsky, Eric Cartman, Stan Marsh, and Kenny McCormick. But for some reason, they killed Kenny in every episode. Let's dig a little deeper into Kenny's random deaths and whether he died for real or not.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny!
Did a running gag slowly become a parody? Oh my god, they killed Kenny, you bastards! Kenny's one of the iconic characters of South Park, with his 4-inch parka covering his entire body and muffling his voice. But the reason for Kenny's popularity was his unfortunate death in each episode. Yes, all through seasons 1 to 5, Kenny was killed in the most bizarre manner in each episode, only to mysteriously reappear in the next one. Even his friends never acknowledged his return from the dead and continued living normally like the death never occurred. The writers have left no tables unturned when it comes to finding creative, ridiculous, and often crude ways of killing Kenny. Over the years, Kenny have gotten run over, microwaved, ironically fell into the grave, shot down for carrying a white flag, and once even died of laughter. In one episode, we can even see Kenny turn into a zombie, after Worcestershire sauce falls into the embalming fluid being used on the dead Kenny. Later, zombie Kenny was sawed in half by his own friend only to re-emerge from his grave and be killed by a large statue of an angel in the graveyard. It seems like Kenny's deaths were a hilarious take on the various shows where the main characters die and a few episodes later return in the most twisted storytelling. Writers also based Kenny on a real-life poor kid from their high school who often skipped classes and everyone assumed that he was dead. We think it originally started off as a gag and became the show's trademark soon enough. Was there a real reason according to the show? The showrunners explained how Kenny kept coming back to life in season 14, episode 12. Mysterion Rises, where Kenny, who is dressed as Mysterion, explains that his curse and superpower was that he cannot die. It further says that he has died countless deaths, but each time he wakes up in his bed in the same clothes, and the worst part is that no one remembers him dying. Kenny's parents also revealed that they were arrested for being involved in a cult named Cthulhu, where they went only to get their free beers. As it turns out, his parents were cursed with immortality somehow during their meets, so each time that Kenny died, his mother got pregnant almost magically and delivered another baby who grew into a normal-sized Kenny overnight. The new Kenny now also retained memories from the old Kenny, including his death. The Mysterion episode even ended with Kenny shooting himself and his mother waking up screaming, saying it's happening again. The parents then enter Kenny's room with an infant, place Kenny's orange parka on the bed, and zip the baby in it. This practically made Kenny immortal in some sense, but unfortunately, it seems like everyone else around him, except his family, was unaware of his innumerable deaths. Kenny has died approximately 126 times in the South Park franchise. With this, Kenny's death gag seemed to have reached its epitome, where the writers could no longer think of more ways to kill it. Did Matt and Trey kill Kenny off permanently in season 5? The repetitive joke of Kenny's death started getting old. In later seasons, every time Kenny died, the signature lines of his friends were uttered in a dull, bored manner, like it had become an everyday matter for them. It also seemed like a reflection of how the writers had started to feel about killing Kenny in each episode. So in season 5, episode 13, titled Kenny Dies, the writers had planned to kill off Kenny permanently. Kenny is shown cuffing throughout the whole episode. He skips school, and Kyle and Stan are ushered into the principal's office, where they are told that Kenny is dying of a terminal disease called muscular atrophy. Kyle and Stan pick up Cartman and head to the hospital, where Kenny is strapped to machines with wires running through his body. Cartman even confesses to Kenny that he is his best friend. Stan and Cartman are inconsolable, while Kyle is trying to stay strong for them. At the end of the episode, Kenny stops breathing and dies. They hold a funeral for him to say their final goodbye. After this grave episode, fans were left wondering about what would happen in the next episode and if Kenny would return like he always did, but the writers decided to give Kenny's character a break and didn't bring him back in the rest of season 5. Unlike previous episodes, his friends also acknowledged and grieved his death and held tryouts for Kenny's replacement in the next season. The show's writers accepted that they got bored of killing Kenny and that he was more like a prop in the show. After keeping Kenny away from fans for an entire season, Trey and Matt finally resurrected him at the end of season 6, with his friends asking him where he had been and saying that they had a lot to catch up on. Why did the show stop killing off Kenny? Throughout South Park, Kenny dies in unique, offbeat, and rather gruesome manners. We can only imagine the exhaustion the writers may have felt to try and devise new ways of disposing him of. Not only that, but they have also to keep it hilarious and in the continuum with the series. This was probably why they decided to kill him permanently in Season 5. Also, Kenny's death in Season 5 was to give more screen time to Butters and grow his character arc. But the immortal cannot stay dead, and so Kenny was back in our lives. However, this time the writers decided to go the other way and stop killing him as frequently. The writers established that they don't need to force Kenny's death scenes into episodes anymore and let it happen more organically, so only if it fits into their writing they kill Kenny, otherwise they let him live to see the next episode. Kenny's character slowly but steadily developed from being a mere prop to adding volume to the storyline. In later episodes, the writers also decided to show Kenny's face and gave him audible dialogues, like his previously muffled line. We guess it was also why Mysterion unveiled the truth behind his immortality and gave fans a reason for his countless comebacks. Did South Park post-COVID end Kenny permanently? So South Park's post-COVID special episode takes place in the future, where Kyle, Stan, Cartman, and Kenny have grown up. Kenny is now a genius scientist who decides to travel back in time and find a root cause of COVID and end it. Unfortunately, during the time travel, he died. Now the big question is whether this will be his permanent death. We had tried to dive into a few reasons why this is a possibility, so let's start with the fact that Kenny's mom probably cannot give birth owing to her old age. But then again, she was cursed, and this is South Park, so anything is possible, but for now the possibility of his rebirth looks grim. Secondly, Kenny leaves a message for his friends to find all his hidden data in case of his death. So Kenny's death formed the central premise for the sequel and for the others to come together and figure out a way to stop COVID. And as it turns out, Kenny had figured out that the Tegrity weed cultivated on Randy's Marsh farm can cure COVID. So in the South Park Return of the COVID, Kyle, Stan, and Cartman travel back in time to not only stop COVID by planting more Tegrity weed, but also save Kenny, and our beloved immortal being was brought back once again. South Park is currently in its 26th season. We are eager to see how the journey of Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny moves forward. Writers Trey and Matt are coming up with more and more episodes and specials giving a different storyline while still keeping it humorous and hard-hitting. But more importantly, will fans ever get bored of Kenny's life-death life cycle? Let us know in the comments below what you think the writers should do about Kenny's character arc and whether or not he should die permanently. If you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.